Hello and welcome to the Knock On KCLR and Scoreline.ie's weekly rugby podcast. It's been a while, lads. We've been sort of busy with finals and all that sort of stuff and life and everything in between, but we said we'd get together before we knock off for the summer. Plenty of stuff still to come in the URC and the Champions Cup. From a local point of view, though, we've wrapped up for the year more or less. Tom Crotty isn't with us tonight, but we'll catch up with Tom again. But we've plenty to talk about. James, we're going to start with you.
Johnny Tobin was pushing hard for this podcast. That's all I'll say.
He wanted the last word, the last one, before we go to season 3. James, I suppose what we have to talk about is like ripping off a plaster. The Towns Cup, the league, and all that. We're going to start with Kilkenny. So there's no point in sugarcoating it. It wasn't a great season. He's got relegated.
No, you can't beat around the bush on it, right? I saw, we set ourselves a target at the beginning of the season for top 4 finish, and with the resources that we had and the players that we had, we certainly felt that was within our grasp. But as Johnny pointed out to me, I think Johnny said it to me in January, we probably had one of the best defences in Division 1A, but our attack just wasn't firing and we weren't scoring tries. And we were playing really good rugby against teams and we just couldn't see games out. And look, ultimately we succumbed to I suppose it was, we got relegated against Sea Point, but it was realistically the Setonians at home game that was what cost us our place in the league. We had Setonians beaten 5 minutes to go, and they took a 1-point lead. And look, if we scuppered a chance in the last few minutes, but that was probably the one that ultimately relegated us. But I think it'd be very unfair of me to sit here and doubt the players and doubt the coaches, and particularly doubt their effort that they put in all year, because they put in incredible effort all year. They trained very hard. Doc worked very hard to get things right, but I think certain things went against us as well, i.e. the front row issues that we have. There was no how would I say, hiding that our front row issues just haunted us all year. Scrum penalty tries, scrum penalties, yellow cards, things like that. To survive in 1A, you absolutely need a fully functioning scrum and a half, because you need the guys on the bench to come in. And we were just unfortunate. We lost Rob Kelly, we lost Joe Moynihan for parts of the season. Mort Lahey came back for the cup. You saw the difference that once we had Mort Lahey and Joe Moynihan back for the cup, that made to our scrum. So, but look, at no excuses. We weren't relegated. People can be as nice, or we were relegated. People can be as nice as they can be to us, saying we didn't deserve to go down on paper. Spoke to a few of the Sea Point guys recently, and they were kind of saying we on paper we should never go down. Some of the toughest games they had been against us. Blah 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 blah. That might be fact, but we are where we are. It's as I said on this podcast some months ago, and I'll say it again. I said at a committee meeting on last Monday night. It's not about the action now; it's about the reaction and how we react to it. We got a good cup run going. A few players were brought in. Joe Halpin was brought in for the cup, albeit we lost him for half an hour of his debut with us. Jake Colbeck came in, who had a big impact on the team. Probably the cup was secondary to all of our thoughts throughout the season. We got to a final after an absolute monumental battle with Gorey in the quarter-final game, where no one gave us a chance, and probably a game that changed a lot of people's opinions. Some guys may have been retiring prior to the Gorey game for next season, but I think what happened in the Gorey game actually convinced people who were considering retirement to stay on for next year, which is great. A game semi-final against Kildare, probably a game we were never going to lose, but a game we made very hard work of to win in the heat of the hunt. And I suppose the glory in the cup final ultimately was Tullow's. We feel in the cup final that we didn't take our opportunities that came to us in the first 15 minutes. You might recall first line out, I think it was one of our first line outs in Tullow territory. We went to try and hit the tail and we overthrew, and Tullow went down and got the opening try. So that kind of took the wind out of our sails. But for me, as kind of someone who jumped in a line out all the time, My objective from your first attacking line out was always to build confidence straight up 2 or 4 and get down and have them all and cut. It's easy for me to sit on the sideline and make that comment. The lads wanted to stretch it and have a good go. They went to the tail to try to get a peel, and that didn't work. That was probably the turning of the game. Then we conceded a few scrum penalties, get a yellow card, couple of knock-ons, and Tullow, just as they do, the good team that they are, they feed off your mistakes. Good support or in your ear, getting onto you. And didn't Garrett get the second try then, Johnny, was it, where he dummied and went in on? That was the first try, sorry. He dummied. Abel went to cut out. Garrett just cut inside him. And second half, look, we all know what happened. We knew coming into the game, and this is no disrespect to Tullow, they're a good team, but we knew Tullow would tire in the last quarter, and that's what happened. They certainly did tire in the last quarter, and we got back into the game. We could have stole it at the end, as Joe Duffy said the other day up in Portlaoise, said to Doc, you could have stole it at the end, and Doc said, well, we wouldn't have deserved it, but you know what, it doesn't matter if you deserve it or not once your name goes onto the cup. But Doc was right, before we didn't deserve it, we could have stole it. Knock on. I wouldn't like Hugh Corkery to be tired on himself for the knock on, because there was 2. If you look at the video, and I've looked at it, if I looked at it once, I looked at it 100 times, there was 2 covering defenders coming across from Tullow anyway. So there was nothing to say that Hugh was going to make that break and get in. So look, that was the last play of the game, and ultimately Tullow took the spoils home, and look, at more power to them. I've tipped them all year for the cup anyway, so doesn't make it any easier for me as a Kilkenny man to watch them lift it. But look, ultimately it's been a tough season for us. We're looking forward to next year. Luckily Doc is staying on, which is great. And there's going to be a couple of changes. A few players are going. Abel is probably coming back next year. But you can see there was two defenders coming across, so there was no guarantee.
James, that's where he was going.
Pardon?
He wasn't going to score that try.
You can see the 2 of them are coming across. You can see Joe Waters there, is it? And
Joe Waters.
Yeah, he had a long way to go, but we're losing a few players for next year. Abel is coming back. Dave O'Leary's gone back to Australia. He was only on a year's break from the Australian Army. Johan has gone back to Wales. A few other bits and pieces come. We're probably going to lose a few players mid-season next year who are going to Australia. But the good news is, look, we've a tight head prop signed from AIL Division 1. Scrum half's coming back to the club, who came through the youth system in Kilkenny. He's spent the last probably 6 or 7 years in the UK. He's coming back. So there's good cause for excitement. But chatting with Doc last week, just going up to the Leinster Junior match in Portlaoise, one of his big objectives over the last 2 years is, your first team is a very important part of your club, but your second team is incredibly important. And this time last year, John Buckley, the seconds coach, was questioning whether he'd stay on or not, because commitment to players wasn't there. He was scrapping and scraping for numbers every week. We got it together at seconds level this year, and John Buckley had some incredible headaches this year, because he was trying to pick 22 players for a match every Sunday, where he had 36 players available to him. So there's been incredible progress there at J2. The fact that we're getting a J2 team moving together, they're developing together. Some of those guys are going to step up to first now as well next year. But look, it's not all doom and gloom for the club. We had some great success at underage level. The under 14s under Vinny O'Shea and Mick Hannigan and a few others did the league and cup double. That's great. For me, underage rugby is all about player development. It's all about getting guys through the various age groups of adult rugby. Winning makes it easier. Winning makes it easier for those guys to stay on. The under 15s under Mick McGrath, Barry Daly, Tom Marry, Tim Kiley and Eamon Dooley won the Division 1 league. Couple of guys, I think one guy picked on the Leinster Youths, Hugh Gainey. I don't believe, surprisingly, that Daniel Ring was picked or Jamie O'Keefe, but that's peculiar. But look, at lots to look forward to. Lots happening for next season with the girls rugby. I think there's 6 or 8 girls making the step up from under 18s into adult. using that kind of to move on to women's rugby. The women had a brilliant start to the season, really great start to the season, but probably the wheels started to come off the track for them in around January, and unfortunately they couldn't replicate their first half, or their first 3 quarters of the season were brilliant, but they just faded away and missed out on promotion and were in the playoff. But plenty for them to be looking forward to. For our women's team, actually, I believe that Paddy is staying on. And nothing wrong with that, but I believe he is actually looking for kind of an assistant coach or a backs coach to come in and help him with the women's team next year. So if anyone wants to put their hand up for that, we are looking for applicants there.
Good stuff. Yeah, next year with the men, you'll be rubbing shoulders with Tom Crotty. So
we will be, and it's probably not a bad thing, I mean, we're talking for 2 years now, and I said this time last year, we could find ourselves in the same position this time next year, which we ultimately did. Maybe going back mightn't necessarily be a bad thing. It'll allow you to rebuild. It'll give you the opportunity to rebuild. You're not playing against, I suppose, and this is no disrespect to any team in the league, but you're not playing against the Becktowns and the Monkstowns and these kind of, how would you say, powerhouses of Leinster, current powerhouses of Leinster junior rugby, So it's going to give us an opportunity to rebuild. But in saying the same, we're not underestimating the level and the quality of 1B. You're going to have really good teams in there. You look at what Athy have done this year. It's brilliant. They have 2 very strong Leinster juniors. You're going to have Dundalk, Boyne, Mullingar. They're all going to be looking to have a cut off us as well. So, it's but we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. 1B is nothing to shake a stick at. What I'm trying to say, it's nothing to turn your nose up at either. It's very competitive.
It's not, it's tough rugby,
as you know, as well. Yeah.
We've heard Johnny and Tom, I've heard lads for the last 2 years talking about it, and I've been to a couple of games. Like, it is tough rugby. Like, there's the fact of the matter is, Johnny, you might see it next year, but there's very little between the top half of 1B and what you get in 1A. Probably the one difference is the fitness. There's a much higher level of fitness in 1A.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd say that'd be the major difference.
Rugby
would be very.
Rugby is similar. Like, every team has the same quality of player, just the fitness. Like, I mean, you have second rows in 1A that are doing incredible things. You look at that Leinster junior number 8, John Deaver, that plays for Monkstown. I watched him on Saturday for the full 80. Like, just absolute workhorse, big man, but a number 8 of his size. Take the punishment that he took for 70 minutes and those players are throughout. You can see with the Gorey lads. So for Tullow going up, and having seen Tullow a few times this year, that's probably the one place Tullow will have to work is on their overall fitness of their front 8. Now, I could be shot for saying that, but that's kind of what I would see as being something that may need to improve.
Yeah, well, that's it. There is a step up in standards, and that comes with the territory, I suppose, as well. So, yeah, absolutely. James, thanks a million for that. I know you're a busy man this evening. Before we let you go, what's your predictions? This is away from local stuff now. What's your predictions for the URC and the Champions Cup?
Look, the Champions Cup, I think, is going to be much harder call in the URC.
Yeah,
I think from a Leinster perspective, they're playing the defending champions. I think if Leinster need to, against La Rochelle, match them up front, because La Rochelle have big guys there that will get you over the gain line with every carry. It could take 2 Leinster defenders, but Leinster are very good at kind of staying away from lost causes. So it could take 2 defenders to take down their big ball carriers. If Leinster get dominance, if Leinster can get equal up front to La Rochelle, the game is there for them. In the URC, given the injuries that Munster have, RG Snyman is gone, Peter O'Mahony's touch and go. They're missing, who else? Conor Murray is gone. I think Munster will be going up there tomorrow or Saturday in hope rather than expectation. I can't see anybody beating Leinster in the URC this year.
Okay, doc.
I think bottom line, I think they're incredible. Incredible side.
I think La Rochelle might struggle fitness-wise once we hit the 50, 60-minute mark as well. If Leinster
they have it on the bench, though. That's the thing, Stephen.
Yeah, true, yeah.
And they have, I can't remember the back row's player, the number 7, but like, he is such a dynamic ball carrier. He can win ball on the ground, but in the next phase of play, he's out in the middle of the backs, throwing passes or making 60-metre breaks. Leinster have that as well, but I just look at my money would be on Leinster, but only on the proviso that they can get that they can equal La Rochelle up front.
Yeah, absolutely. James, thanks a million. I know you're heading off.
I will stay on now. We'll listen. We'll look at.
We'll listen
I'm
to
not
Johnny.
going anywhere. I have to. I've been listening to him, and he's been listening to me. So I have to give him his couple of minutes. Even though Stephen, I will caveat, Johnny is telling us all season he's not to do with Tullow. You know, he's not involved in Tullow. So that was his chance anyway.
He's not involved in Tullow.
You know.
So he says.
You know.
Where do we start with you, Johnny? I'd say it's been a non-stop session since the Towns Cup. You have the women win their cup as well, the seconds, and of course your dinner dance there not so long ago. I'd say you must be absolutely cloud9 down there.
Yeah, there's no point in the sugarcoating. It's been a fantastic season in the club, albeit from even outside the senior, like our youth. We had 3 youth teams in Donnybrook on the Monday Maybank holiday. 2 of them came away with trophies. The 15s just pipped at the end, beat by a good Portlaoise team. But it's been 3 mental weekends. Absolutely mental weekends. I think the women in the first weekend, I think that whole week was the weekend. It rolled into the following Sunday in Carlow. And then that rolled into the bank holiday, which then lads took a few days off then and went hell for leather at a dinner dance. But it's been it's a fairy tale year, to be honest with you. Like you couldn't write that stuff. You said at the start of the year you're going to win all 3 senior cups, first, seconds, and women. Someone would just laugh at you, you know. Especially us after winning or losing first 2 games in the league. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I don't think it's.
What do you put it down to, Johnny?
I put it down to the club shake-up maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe 4 years ago. The year before COVID, we said that we needed to get our youth structure correct, and we needed to bridge that gap. So a few lads, when I was actually involved in Tullow, went back to the 18 and a half, we start coaching there, and bringing them lads in. And if you just look at our teams, your bar, Joe and Scott, most of the lads are 25 and under, you know. So I think that's where the proof is. These young lads are not afraid of trying things, where the older lads are a little bit more reserved and regimented to the systems. Sean coming back in this year, the big influence, obviously, everyone's been speaking about all year. His impact has been massive this year, to be honest with you. Morris has upped his game again. I thought Morris couldn't improve any further as a coach. I think the man is absolutely incredible. His detail is second to none. And then, like with the S&C coaches, 2 S&C coaches in working with the lads, obviously it was more of a power phase than a fitness phase. I think our running fitness kind of went to the wayside for a while because 1B is very, very physical, and that's where we got our dominance. So, I think I do agree with your point. We did gas out in the last 15 in the Towns Cup final. In fitness-wise, but we did have enough still in the tank to hold it out. So,
that's true.
But
just going back to your 18s, Johnny, not to talk over you, every club in Leinster is probably saying, what did Tullow do? What did it do that was so different? Was it there's no silver bullet? There's no one thing works for all. But kind of, did you put structure, coaching, manuals, kind of what did you do that was so different or that worked so well?
It's about the personnel, to be honest with you. I took over the 18s 2 years ago in Tullow, with Dennis O'Brien was in there doing it, and Fergus Tour and Alan Byrne, and the club had asked me would I go in and take over the coaching side of things, and I said I would, but I only done it on one condition, that Morris would help me on a Tuesday night. So, when you have your senior coach down coaching your 18s every Tuesday night before your senior training, and he's doing the exact same thing with them, and they're getting on with him, and it's creating a good relationship.
Pathway.
And then, carries through. And then Sean comes in every single week when he's home, and he hits the 16s and 18s mainly because they're our next crop of senior players. Now, that's not saying he doesn't go to the 13s, 14s, 15s as well, because he does. But the personnel was right for the last 3 years. The people involved were really hard workers and really dedicated to making it something. And a lot of people have given out. I know Morris himself said COVID was a bad thing, but it kind of was a blessing in disguise for us as well, because we ironed out all our problems and we got our skill sets developed with our youths to then, in turn, create something good when they came to senior training.
And
And
are you
like,
training them, Johnny, to play a Tullow brand of rugby, or just educating them on playing rugby? You know,
see,
the way Larry would have done it years ago would have been just kind of, and not just, but educating kids on to play ball and kind of how to develop their skills. Have you moved it on from that?
oh, completely. Like, and I was not really backing off at the start of the season, but Sean is a big believer on running a couple of moves for a couple of weeks and then scrapping them going again. So we don't really actually have a series of set plays that we continue all year, or strike plays. Everything is changing. It's constantly challenging the players. It's constantly challenging the coaches. It's just constant movement to get better, and that's what's really positive out there. And the youth are doing the same now. They're constantly changing and developing the way they're training. So for 1 week they'll go up to jumper rugby. The next week they'll look to go out the back, and it's constant change. But the players have adapted to it as well, because like, you can bring a horse to water, you just can't make it drink. The lads have to put it in and listen as well. And there's been times where we've been frustrated, and there's been video reviews where there's been a few harsh words, but it's all been for the benefit of the team and the club. And like I said,
because like I remember being up at the Carlow match with you, like, and you said, "Oh, you're such and such guy was playing scrum half. Gareth Fitzgerald was on the bench." And I remember Gareth; he would have been on that corresponding team that you and I would have had in opposition. I said, "Why isn't he starting?" You were saying he missed training the other day; he was dropped. You know, or something like that. That Morris didn't start him against Carlow for that reason. Like, I thought that was kind of, how would I say, a true indicator of the standard and quality that was in it. That a fella of Garrett's ability and quality would be dropped for a home game against your biggest rivals. You know, I said, just that's
down from us. Remember that? Stevie was dropped from the
yeah,
squad.
that's
He was
right.
completely in training as well. He missed 2 though, so he was dropped from the squad. Garrett was on the fringe and would have been the same, you know. The lads have, like, I just give all credit to Morris and Sean and Ivan. They're doing a massive amount of work, and even like with the seconds there, Shane Riley and Johnny Egg, all 5 of them men have done a massive amount of work to make sure that's successful this year. Like, Shane Riley coaches 5 teams in our club. Like, he won Club Man of the Year there at dinner dance recently. Like, he's never out there. He's with everybody. And like, I think, like I said earlier, the personnel was spot on this year. So that's why I think it was so good. And then with Paul being with the women, Morris and Sean were also helping out with the women as well. So that helped Paul out with the women as well. So, like, geez, lads, if Sean O'Brien in your club and you're not learning something off and something's wrong. Morris Logue was working with Bernard Jackman. So Morris was seeing Bernard as well.
I just looked at your seconds team in the Seconds Cup final. When you look across it, like, you had Pookie, Aho, Frank, and Louis. You know, 4 serious guys that would be still playing J1 in another club.
Yeah, like Shane Rowan,
You know,
Aho, Louis, Frank, they were all on the Towns Cup winning team in the first.
That's right, yeah. And 17, like, that's an incredible thing to have on your seconds team, like.
The most decorated man in Tullow. He has the Gale Cup medal, a thirds medal, a seconds medal, and a first medal. All at cup. He's going to call himself the county chairman, going around next, all the medals around his neck. But yeah, look at it, like, there's no real words you can say to describe it. It's there. It's evident itself. Like, it's been a very, very successful year. We lost no games at home, which was really, really important as well. We 9 games at home. We won 9 of them. With the first, our 4 losses were away losses. The Mullingar one was probably the change of the season where lads said, right, enough's enough. We need to stop losing games in the last few minutes. So, no, it's really, really positive season. Thing about it is, it doesn't stop, because we're already planning about next year and stuff. And there's already players meetings arranged for a couple of weeks' time, and there's lads to be arranged to come back into the club who went missing for a few years. AIL lads who've been up in Lansdowne and stuff like that. So we doing a bit of talking to lads like that.
He's coming back, is he?
Who?
What's his name? Tall back row guy in Lansdowne.
Well, Darren Murphy.
Yeah.
There could be a potential of it, yeah. Killian Redmond was meant to come back. Well, there was talks of it, but he was being made Lansdowne captain for next year now. So that has stuck Killian in the mud where he is, I suppose, for a season. But there's lots of interest in the club. There's lads who, like, I'm getting texts off lads who...
coming back.
Who?
Sean.
Yeah.
Is he going to play this coming season?
That's in the lovely hands of the Leinster branch.
Oh.
We'll leave that with them. And
look at lads, I'm going to have to be rude because I have to hit the road. If I'm meeting in Waterford at 6 o'clock. I purposely asked a number of questions there, Johnny, so I wouldn't have to hear the difficult part for me. So, Stephen, you can quiz him there now, and you can listen to him waxing lyrical there now and blowing his trumpet. But look, congratulations to Tullow on what has been a great season. It's bittersweet for us, but well done to them.
Look forward to more chats next year, James.
Cheers, lads.
Back next season. Thanks, James.
Bye-bye.
James Blanchfield there from Kilkenny. Johnny, tough for Kilkenny, I suppose. The defending champions and fingertips away from grabbing that ball and getting over the try line. It just goes to show how close games can be. But back to yourselves. That's amazing to hear that you're planning next season already. And as James is saying, he's been there, Division 1A. He knows what to expect. Like you said, there's big Dublin clubs in there. The fitness has to come up a bit as well. Physicality will naturally step up. Everything changes.
Yeah, everything gets ramped up that 10% extra, and to be fair to the lads, they know that. Like, we know what situation we're in. We know what our sights are. We know what our goals are. We set our goals in the club 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, of where we want to be by 2026. And right now, we're currently right on target for that. Now, next year will be a big telling point. Fitness will play a factor, but I wouldn't be overly worried about it because, like that, it's a Towns Cup game. That was one game, and people are judging our fitness off that. We're after playing, I think, 14 league games and 4 Towns Cup games before that. So, there's been 18 games before we got to that, and we had 89 training sessions before the Seconds Cup final the week after. So we would have had 2 trains. We had 87 training sessions plus 18 games. I think the lads were allowed to be they've earned the right to be a little bit tired, and a little bit sore and slower. But it's been an incredible season. They've put in a massive amount of work, and as a club person and standing on the sideline and watching it, it's incredible. It's incredible for the people of the club, the older people, the younger people watching it, and then the lads involved in the mix of it as well, because some of these lads might never win a Towns Cup again. Some like Joe Waters might go again next year, he might not. Some of them obviously it's their first Towns Cup, like Adam Johnson, Jack Canlon, Scott O'Sullivan, they're all in their first year. Jamie Cooper of senior rugby. You're sitting there and you're saying, in my first year senior rugby I won a Gael Cup. But if you talk to the Red lad or a Towns Cup, if you talk to the Red lad, he's played 20 years with senior rugby and won nothing,
Yeah.
And it's very important for these men as well that the likes of John Brown and the Red lad and John Bulger and all these lads to have paved the way for the young fellas, so it's incredible to see. I was talking to Ger Brennan actually in the tie after the Towns Cup, and he said there was 3,500 people through the gate, and he reckons about 2,800 of them are Tullow people. You were there, I reckon.
Were. Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of Tullow there.
He sent me a funny text. I think I sent it to you yesterday as well. Ireland are out of the Eurovision. We probably should have sent Tullow. They would have won it as well.
Yeah.
People
absolutely.
We'll stay plugging away. And look at it would be very easy for me to come here and gloat and say, oh, brilliant, whatever, blah blah, and egging people's faces for doubting us. But that's not what we want to do. We want to kind of stay humble, and we want to just move to next year and worry about next year now, because it's brilliant what we've done, but it's in the past, and we need to do something else again now next year. So
absolutely.
It's in a great place, Stephen. It's fantastic. The facility is fantastic. Everything about it's fantastic. People in it are brilliant. The energy out there is brilliant. Something has just changed. I don't know what it is, but something changed over COVID. And I think it's exciting few years ahead now for the club.
Absolutely. People were like you hit the nail on the head earlier, Johnny. People working together. There's a bit of unity. Coaches coaching all the way down. There's a plan there. There's a structure. It's all working towards similar goals. And when you've everyone on side like that and they know what they're doing, like, you can see the results of that this season. It's on the screen there in front of you.
Trophy Rex. But I said it to Brendan in the preview show. He asked me what's the recipe for success. And I said the clarity in the roles and the people know the committee are 100% behind Morris and Sean and I, Johnny and Shane, and the lads are 100% with Morris, Sean, Ivan, Johnny and Shane, and then the supporters are 100% behind whatever they're doing. So everyone collectively is doing their role and everyone collectively is doing their bit. And it's really, really important. And the town, like, geez, if you drove through Tullow town over the last 3 weeks, it's bombarded with flags. Yeah. Now, the town is good to us as supporters and businesses, but it would never have been at that level. Like, that level, the last month has been frightening.
Yeah.
And when you me there, when I walk into a shop, I meet some person from the town. Jeez, you're still celebrating, and jeez, the club went brilliant and all this kind of stuff. And it's starting to mean something to people in the town. And that's what's really important because, as everyone knows, we're not a town club as such. We grab people from every walk of life and every village and every townsland and everything as well. So it's good that people in the local town are seeing what the lads are doing and seeing the work and appreciating it. And it's nice. It's nice to see the club be appreciated within the town itself because the committee and the people that play for the club, it's Tullow Rugby Club at the end of the day. So they do it for the club and the town, I suppose, and the area. And it's brilliant. Like, it really is.
Absolutely, sure. Even in the radio station, Johnny, we were inundated with best wishes and everything, for Tullow. Yeah. And you get a sense of who's behind it and how many people are behind it as well. We got a real sense of that even in the radio station. We know that Tullow's well supported and everything, but you could feel it from the local businesses and everything as well based on their support. So it's fantastic.
And in relation to the businesses as well, it must be extremely hard for them. This year especially, because I know we're a rugby podcast and whatever, but the soccer club in Tullow Parkville are going extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing in the Premier League in Carlow and they're going really, really well. And the football team, I was actually watching the football team last night. They played in Ballin there with their junior C's. Normally when you go watch a junior C game, it's a bunch of old relics trying to hang on to their
past this.
It's like me and James playing third rugby or fourth rugby. But that's what it is. But I went over there last night to watch Junior C play Ballin. And both sides, Ballin and Tullow, was loads of young lads playing. And, it must be extremely hard for the businesses in the town to keep giving, But I just want them to know from our side anyway that it's really, really, really appreciated for the generosity of the businesses in the town and the people to get behind us because there's 3 cracking sports clubs. Like, I know there's more. I know there's the tennis clubs and stuff like that as well. And ladies GA as well is going really well. But I know I'm going to miss somebody. But all sports clubs in the town are going really well. And for such a small community to be so brilliant,
Absolutely.
And it's just, look, it's a magical year. I don't know if we'll ever replicate it again. But it's nothing to be sniffed at, and it's definitely something to be celebrated because it's one of them rare times in your life that you get to witness,
Yeah, no, and that's it. And you're very grateful for it as well, that you had a chance to experience all that as well. And the memories that brings. Sure, we've spoke about on the podcast before, Towns Cup wins make you legends. You'll be talking about in 20 years' time. Do you remember 2023 or, and that when we won the 4 trophies, there'll be pictures on the wall and you'll be thinking, it's that stuff.
Yeah, and it's important too because you have to live for them days, and you have to enjoy them and take them in. And I mentioned John on the radio, he didn't get into a tie, but he made his business to get to Carlow to watch the seconds, and then it's really, really important for those people, and it's really, really important for the young lads and everyone coming up. The young lads are buzzing around the place, and I don't know if I've ever seen this before, but after the Towns Cup final, Ryan O'Neill, Gareth Fitzgerald and Adam Johnson, Scott O'Sullivan were signing autographs in front of me.
When do you see that?
After playing a junior rugby match.
Mm-hmm.
This is no respect to junior rugby. But after playing a junior rugby match, and young lads coming up, will you sign my book on your picture? I'm looking at saying, that's special. Like that means something. Lads will laugh at it and say, oh, jeez, young lad asking for an autograph. But in 20 years' time, when that young lad's winning the Towns Cup medal, you'll remember that, or 10 years' time. Like, and it's gas. It's just, it comes in a special place. It really is. It's mad.
No, it's amazing what influence. Yeah. It's amazing what influence it has, Johnny. Sorry, you're talking over there. Go ahead.
No, like Sprocket said when in his profile, what's the best thing about Tullow Rugby Club? And I love Sprocket's answer because everyone said the people, the community, and that's very important. Sprocket said it's a secret. You have to be involved, and it actually is. Unless you're actually a member or out there involved with it, you won't fully understand it and take it in because it's a mad time. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand where the kids are coming from with their autographs because when I remember when I was a young lad in Kilkenny, we're cleaning up around them with the hurling in Wicklow. The one 6-7 times in 10 years the senior championship. Yeah, but I remember though looking at those fellas when I was a chap going, they were giants like these. You had them up on a pedestal. You're like going, God, I'd love to win a senior county final with Kilkenny, and they were the lads that drove you on underage because you'd be thinking, Jesus, I want to hurl like Christy Toole or any of those boys that you were watching. So for these young lads coming on and getting autographs for the Towns Cup winners as well, it really drives on those lads.
It's great to see the women as well because often, me especially, often I forget to mention our women, and I am a culprit of it. I do forget to mention them, but it's great to see them as well and the role models that they are for the young girls growing up and coming up through the ranks because we've another 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s and 18s girls. Now the 18s are Tullow alone, but the 16s and 14s are combined with the Rhinos, and then our 12s and 10s are on their own. So we have a very, very strong youth girl system, but that all comes from an Alex O'Brien, Grace Kelly, Chloe Farr, Dempsey. They're idols to them, and like even the senior men. Like I look at Joe Waters like a god, Scott Caldwell. That man walk around with 2 Towns Cup medals after he came back to the club after a few years away. I'm looking at young lads I coached, like I would have coached Scott and Adam and Jack Hanlon and these lads, and I'm looking at them saying, these lads have Towns Cup medals, and you take a sense of pride from it, and you really do. And like every player as well can take a sense of pride from what they have done because I don't believe we would have had 3 youth teams in Donnybrook if we didn't have the season with our seniors. Like our 16s won the Southeast Cup as well, not to forget them. The 18s were in the Southeast Cup final, lost out narrowly. But every team we have in the club currently from 13s to seniors have been in a final. So it's a year to be unmatched. And I put it all down to everyone knowing their role, clarity, and just everyone rolling with it, and having everyone has that one mind, that one goal to be successful and can make Tullow the best club it can be. So that's what's really good.
Absolutely. That's it, Johnny. Jesus, it's been a great out season. It's interesting the way it ebbs and flows, and we did the struggles of Carlow this year and Kilkenny and so on and so forth, and yourselves, and then you end up with a couple of trophies. But like that's just seasons where they are. Division 1B, the Leinster League, we've talked about for the last couple of years on the podcast. It's just so competitive, but it's great. You're starting a new era next year. You're going into defending champions of the Towns Cup and in Division 1A. And of course, James drops down into Division 1B with Kilkenny. So Kilkenny and Carlow. Carlow have a young team as well, youngish team. Lots to prove next year as well. And Kilkenny, of course, trying to get back up to 1A and rebuild the team as well. We've plenty to talk about in season 3 of the Knock On, but we'll probably wrap it up for season 2. My thanks to yourself, Tom, and James for giving your time every week to do the podcast and to talk about your clubs. You were what?
I was a bit of a straggler this year. Blanchfield got me a lot of time for missing. But I want to congratulate Michael Jackman on the Hall of Fame. In Tullow, and Larry Canavan on the lifetime membership. There's nobody deserves that more than Larry. I actually believe if you were to point one man for the success of the club right now, it'd be Larry.
He's a legend, the absolute legend.
I think the boundaries that man broke to get to schools in different areas, the effort he put in between schools, clubs, everybody. And like I said on Facebook a couple of days ago, he is the biggest influence on my rugby career, coaching wise, like, and my involvement in the club. He's just an absolute legend of a man. So if I was to pinpoint one person at the top of the success pile, I'd pin Larry. He's top man.
Absolute top man. So he's a legend of the club and well deserved as well, and deserves to be celebrated, like you said. He's known far and wide for what he's done for Tullow, not just around the locality, but far beyond that as well. The lads talk about him here regularly. Johnny, have a good one. Well, hopefully Leinster go well now in the URC and the Champions Cup. And
haven't we?
Pardon?
Up and down, busy 3 weekends up and down to Dublin.
Yeah, I've a Pat Warren to it now the last couple of weeks. I'm not up this weekend and I'm still trying to get tickets for the final, but well, fingers crossed I might be able to sort something. But yeah, huge time for provincial stuff. And let's not forget Sean O'Brien is one of the Leinster coaches as well. For people new to the podcast or only picking us up now, of course, so best of luck to him. Yeah, busy times ahead. Tullow are going to reset during the summer. Rest of the teams as well take a well-deserved break, plan for next season, and we'll catch up with you next season, Johnny. It's been a pleasure. Thanks a million.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
Cheers, lad.